Fox 32 has investigated Henyard's use of a police security detail, taking officers off the street and costing thousands of...
You won't believe the level of corruption, deceit, and treachery surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard. It's like a Hollywood drama playing out in a small village outside Chicago. The scandal, months in the making, has finally erupted, exposing a mayor allegedly living like a celebrity while using taxpayer money as her personal piggy bank and abusing her power to silence critics. Now, she's under investigation not just by local authorities but also the FBI. Adding a twist to the story, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, known for her influence and sharp investigative skills, is leading the charge to uncover the shocking truth about Henyard's actions. Buckle up, this political saga is on a whole new level.
New developments in South suburban Dalton today. First, the state comptroller has suspended some payments to the village because it has failed to follow the law by providing financial support.
To fully grasp the scale of the scandal surrounding Tiffany Henyard, we need to rewind and examine its origins. While financial scrutiny is not uncommon for politicians, the boldness of Henyard's alleged misuse of public funds sets this case apart. Reports of first-class flights, luxury hotel stays, extravagant shopping sprees, and other lavish expenses, all allegedly funded by taxpayers, paint a damning picture of reckless mismanagement. These allegations date back to early 2023, when Dalton's village leaders began questioning Henyard's handling of the town's finances. Concerns arose over budget inconsistencies, unexplained withdrawals, and a troubling lack of transparency in approving expenditures. Suspicions deepened as a pattern of excessive spending emerged, featuring expenses seemingly unrelated to any legitimate public need. Compounding the issue, Henyard's approach to governance appeared as indulgent and opaque as her financial practices, intensifying the scrutiny surrounding her actions. Tiffany Henyard's alleged misuse of power and public funds created a storm of controversy that fractured the Dalton community and exposed a troubling pattern of governance. Reports of her disregard for protocols and a sense of entitlement alienated both village trustees and residents. Alarmed by red flags in financial reports, Dalton leaders sought answers, but their inquiries were met with resistance and defensiveness. The issue exploded into public view when insiders leaked details of Henyard's lavish spending, including tens of thousands spent on luxury goods in a single online transaction, first-class airline tickets, and elite accommodations. These revelations painted a stark image of leadership focused on personal indulgence rather than public responsibility. As the scandal gained traction, the community grew divided, one side demanding accountability and expressing outrage, while others defended Henyard, dismissing the allegations as politically motivated. Regardless of intent or bias, one thing was undeniable. This scandal had been brewing for months. Quote, "No one knew for certain there might be a drug fight." Fueled by growing discontent and mounting allegations, the scandal surrounding Tiffany Henyard reached a boiling point, leaving her once celebrated image as a trailblazing mayor in tatters. By the time formal investigations were launched, accusations of impropriety, fiscal irresponsibility, and outright corruption had already cast a long shadow over her administration. This controversy extended far beyond financial mismanagement, symbolizing deeper governance issues in Dalton and prompting a community-wide reckoning with the leadership at its helm. Every decision made under Henyard's watch now faced scrutiny, further deepening the crisis in this small but divided village. Intro rumors of financial mismanagement surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard took a dramatic turn in March when the village trustees, increasingly suspicious of her handling of public funds, decided to act. They called a special meeting to demand detailed financial records, determined to uphold transparency and accountability for the community's money. However, instead of addressing the concerns or providing the requested documents to clear her name, Henyard refused outright, employing stonewalling tactics that only deepened suspicions. Her unwillingness to disclose how taxpayer funds were being spent raised serious questions about her transparency as a public official. The trustees, viewing her defiance as an alarming red flag, resolved to take more drastic measures. Their pursuit of accountability led to the involvement of former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, brought on as a special investigator to uncover the truth behind the growing controversy. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in as a special investigator to dig into Mayor Tiffany Henyard's spending habits and unravel the financial mysteries that had thrown the village into turmoil. Known for her no-nonsense approach and reputation for fearlessly tackling tough inquiries, Lightfoot wasted no time in launching her investigation. What she uncovered, according to insiders, was nothing short of shocking. Reports surfaced of extensive misuse of public funds under Henyard's administration. including lavish purchases, questionable contracts, and unexplained withdrawals. The issue wasn't just the extravagant spending, it was the blatant lack of oversight, with substantial sums of money seemingly allocated without proper authorization. Lightfoot's findings painted a troubling picture of an administration plagued by fiscal irresponsibility and opaque decision-making processes, raising critical questions about whether Henyard's financial actions were simply negligent or deliberately deceptive. The investigation struck a nerve with the public, many of whom had long suspected something was amiss, but were stunned by the scale of the alleged misconduct. Lightfoot's investigation, however, was met with fierce resistance. Henyard's allies dismissed the probe as politically motivated, claiming it was part of a coordinated effort to discredit the mayor ahead of an election. But for her critics, and even some former supporters, these claims fell flat in light of the mounting evidence pointing to gross misuse of public funds. As Lightfoot's investigation deepened, more details began to leak, further cementing the growing perception that Henyard had something to hide. Lavish expenses, including luxury travel accommodations, and suspiciously high payouts to certain contractors, were among the revelations that stoked public outrage. Meanwhile, Henyard maintained her stance, refusing to cooperate with the investigation and framing it as an attack on her character, rather than addressing the substance of the allegations. Her defiance only served to widen the divide between her and the village trustees, who continued to demand transparency and accountability for the community. For Dalton residents, the unfolding scandal had become a stark reminder of the corruption that can fester in local politics. This situation has escalated beyond financial mismanagement. It has become a stark reflection of a deeper crisis of leadership, trust, and governance in Dalton. Henyard's continued resistance to provide the financial records or engage with the investigation left many questioning whether the once celebrated trailblazer could still claim to be a true advocate for her people. Instead, her actions increasingly seemed to prioritize self-preservation over the accountability owed to her constituents, igniting calls for a change in the town's leadership. For Henyard, the stakes couldn't be higher. Caught in a whirlwind of scandal and mounting calls for her resignation, the embattled mayor faces an uphill battle to protect not just her reputation, but also her political future. With Lightfoot's investigation ongoing and new revelations surfacing, the question remains, will the truth that emerges end Henyard's time in office? Or can she somehow weather the storm once again? One thing is clear, these pivotal moments will define Dalton's political landscape for years to come.
Is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered mayor.
Before delving into the specifics of the investigation, it's important to understand how Tiffany Henyard responded when Lori Lightfoot was brought in as a special investigator. Instead of cooperating and addressing the growing concerns about her financial practices, Henyard took a defensive stance, employing the classic political tactic of spinning the narrative to her advantage. She framed the investigation as nothing more than a baseless smear campaign orchestrated by her political opponents to tarnish her leadership. Henyard claimed that she was the real victim, the target of a well-crafted conspiracy. "This is just fake news created by my rivals to bring me down," she declared, refusing to acknowledge the legitimacy of the inquiry or the increasing public demand for accountability. It was a textbook response from a politician caught in a corner: shift the focus, deny any wrongdoing, and portray herself as the hero under siege. But this is where the story took a dramatic turn, as Lori Lightfoot's investigation began to unfold. Lightfoot wasn't about to let Henyard's narrative overshadow the facts. Armed with hard evidence and a no-nonsense approach, Lightfoot methodically dismantled Henyard's claims, proving not only that the investigation was legitimate, but also that it was uncovering serious irregularities in the mayor's handling of public funds. Lightfoot came out swinging, revealing detailed records that pointed to rampant misuse of taxpayer money. Among the most shocking findings was evidence of hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on dubious purchases, including a jaw-dropping $443,000 spent on Amazon in a single day. That's the kind of shopping spree that would make even the Kardashians raise their eyebrows. And it wasn't Henyard's personal money fueling the splurge. It was Dalton's public funds. This revelation struck a nerve with residents who were already disillusioned with the town's governance. It wasn't just the outrageous amount of money spent that infuriated people. It was what the spending represented: a blatant disregard for fiscal responsibility and the trust placed in Henyard by her community. The disclosures didn't stop at extravagant online shopping. Lightfoot uncovered a pattern of questionable financial decisions that painted a picture of an administration plagued by mismanagement, entitlement, and possibly outright corruption. Henyard's attempts to dismiss the investigation as politically motivated began to crumble under the weight of undeniable evidence, leaving her scrambling to maintain credibility in the eyes of her constituents. For Lightfoot, exposing these details was crucial in holding Henyard accountable and restoring transparency in a community that had grown weary of feeling betrayed by its leadership. Lightfoot's revelations had a profound impact, galvanizing residents and sparking calls for change. As more people came to understand the depth of the alleged financial misconduct, the investigation raised larger questions about leadership, trust, and the future of Dalton. The investigation quickly evolved into more than just a financial issue. It became about trust, governance, and the true motives behind Henyard's defiance. It wasn't just the money anymore. It was a community demanding integrity from a leader who had promised to serve their best interests. Instead of cooperating, Henyard dug in her heels, doubling down on her narrative of victimhood and dismissing the investigation as part of a larger plot against her. But for many residents, it was too little, too late. The scandal had grown too big to ignore, and Henyard's insistence on framing herself as the target of a witch hunt fell flat against the mounting evidence. Lightfoot's methodical approach made it clear that this wasn't a personal vendetta. It was a legitimate effort to uncover the truth. As the investigation unfolded, it painted a grim picture of an administration far removed from the values of accountability and transparency the community demanded. From lavish expenditures to unapproved withdrawals, each new revelation added fuel to the growing public outrage. What had initially seemed like rumors of financial mismanagement now appeared to be part of a larger pattern that prioritized personal gain over public trust. For Dalton's residents, these revelations were a turning point, an undeniable moment when they could no longer ignore the actions of their mayor. For Henyard, the investigation marked the beginning of an uphill battle, not only for political survival, but for her credibility as a leader. Her once bright reputation as a trailblazer and a voice for the people was now overshadowed by allegations of self-interest and fiscal irresponsibility. Lori Lightfoot's findings had exposed the challenges facing Dalton and its leadership, leaving residents to confront the pressing question: could their town recover from the fallout of Henyard's controversial tenure? And finally, whether or not they should ever focus on anything but hope that new support would come.
You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances while the town...
Tiffany Henyard's spending spree went far beyond online shopping, morphing into an extravagant pattern of luxurious travel and high-end indulgence, painting the picture of a leader living large at the expense of her struggling community. This wasn't typical business travel. Henyard indulged in first-class flights, swanky hotels, and lavish dinners at some of the most upscale restaurants, all funded by taxpayer dollars. Meanwhile, Dalton, under her administration, was sinking deeper into financial turmoil. By September of last year, the village was already $7 million in debt, a number that has only grown since, primarily due to Henyard's reckless and unchecked spending. As of now, the village faces a staggering $3.6 million budget deficit. The deficit has sparked widespread outrage among Dalton's residents, with one infuriated local describing Henyard's actions as outrageous, pointing out that it feels like she's been treating public funds as her personal ATM, a sentiment many now share. However, the scandal runs far deeper than these blatant financial abuses. According to a whistleblower from Henyard's inner circle, her financial misconduct wasn't just about overspending. It was rooted in deliberate deception and fraudulent practices designed to keep her unethical actions hidden from public scrutiny. The whistleblower, who has remained anonymous for fear of retaliation, disclosed a sophisticated operation involving shell companies, fake invoices, and unauthorized transfers of municipal funds into Henyard's personal accounts. These allegations suggest years of systematic financial manipulation, taking advantage of the very community she was meant to serve. Disregard for ethics and transparency appears to have been not just a recent lapse, but a deeply ingrained pattern of behavior. It's difficult to understand how long Henyard believed she could evade consequences for such blatant mismanagement, but her house of cards is clearly crumbling under the weight of mounting evidence. For Dalton residents, the revelations are nothing short of enraging, especially considering the severe financial strain the community has endured. Public services have suffered, critical infrastructure projects have been delayed, and trust in local governance has eroded, all while Henyard seemingly indulged in a lavish lifestyle funded by the very taxpayers she was elected to serve. The financial devastation left in her wake has left many residents feeling betrayed and furious as they grapple with the consequences of her opulent lifestyle and blatant abuse of power. Beyond the immediate fiscal fallout, Henyard's actions have shaken the very foundation of leadership in Dalton. The fallout from Tiffany Henyard's actions has left the future of Dalton hanging in the balance as the scandal continues to unfold. The whistleblower's revelations have uncovered a disturbing level of premeditated fraud, revealing not only negligence but deliberate theft of public funds through the use of shell companies, fraudulent invoices, and other deceptive practices. These actions go beyond poor judgment, suggesting a systemic exploitation of power for personal gain. Henyard's attempts to conceal her financial misconduct may have worked for a while, but the magnitude of her actions is now undeniable. Investigators are working tirelessly to uncover the full extent of the fraud, with each new detail further damaging Henyard's already shattered credibility. Meanwhile, Dalton's residents are left to contend with the severe consequences of this corruption, as they wonder how much longer their community can survive under such gross mismanagement. With the village's finances in disarray and its leadership mired in scandal, calls for accountability have reached a boiling point. The community is now united in its demand for meaningful change, refusing to tolerate any further abuse of power. For Tiffany Henyard, the days of evading responsibility are numbered, as the full extent of her actions continues to unfold. Whether through legal action or public outcry, her reckoning is inevitable. Dalton's residents are no longer willing to ignore the betrayal of their trust, and as each new revelation emerges, it becomes clear that Henyard's time in office is quickly running out. The community she was meant to serve is now determined to take control of its future and hold her accountable.
That is my heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big meetings.
The FBI has reportedly uncovered substantial evidence of Tiffany Henyard's embezzlement scheme, with insiders suggesting that she could be facing jail time. Yes, you heard that right. This once promising local political figure may soon find herself behind bars. It's hard to feel any sympathy for her after everything she's done, driven by greed and arrogance. But this scandal isn't just about her lavish spending and the looming threat of jail time. There's also the matter of how Henyard treated the people around her. Several former employees have come forward with lawsuits accusing her of wrongful termination after they raised concerns about her behavior. Perhaps most shocking is the allegation from a former staffer who claims she was mistreated by a trustee working closely with Henyard. When the staffer confided in Henyard, she was reportedly told to remain silent, sweeping the issue under the rug instead of taking action. Tiffany Henyard seems to be focused on protecting her own interests, even as the pressure mounts on her to step down. Despite all 9 counts against her, she continues to claim her innocence, while Dalton residents are not backing down in their calls for her resignation. The community has packed town hall meetings, organized protests, and voiced their outrage on social media. One resident put it bluntly, "With all this increasing pressure, this woman has done nothing for our community other than line her own pockets." While Henyard tries to shift the focus onto her supposed accomplishments, like Easter egg hunts and neighborhood picnics, it's becoming increasingly clear that these attempts to deflect attention are futile. The media's coverage may be centered on the chaos surrounding her, but residents are determined to hold her accountable for the real issues: her financial mismanagement and betrayal of public trust. The so-called good things Henyard list seem trivial when compared to the reality of a village drowning in debt and citizens struggling. One of her major distractions is her involvement with the Tiffany Cars Foundation, which was supposed to help cancer patients but now appears to be little more than a cover for her personal gain. Investigators have uncovered that the foundation isn't even registered with the Attorney General's office. To make matters worse, Henyard has been served 2 subpoenas regarding her financial dealings with the charity, yet she continued collecting donations despite being ordered to stop, amassing thousands of dollars in the process. The audacity of her actions is staggering. Now, investigators are focused on digging into Henyard's personal finances, demanding transparency, and seeking answers to how far her deceptive practices reach. Investigators are now digging into a wide range of records, including Henyard's wages, tax documents, contracts, and even checks made out to cash from her various ventures, such as her restaurant, property management company, and political action committee. They're also scrutinizing how she's been using township funds. And from what they've uncovered so far, it appears Henyard has been treating public money as her own personal slush fund. The investigation is intensifying as officials work to unravel the full extent of her financial misconduct. But the real kicker is that, in addition to supporting her lavish lifestyle with public funds, Henyard also used taxpayer money to pay 2 police officers overtime, which pushed the police department's budget to a staggering $9.2 million, almost comparable to budgets of much larger cities like New York or Los Angeles, despite Dalton being a small town. Even Chicago, with its large-scale operations, doesn't allocate such a sizable portion of its police budget to security for one individual. A substantial part of Dalton's police budget has been diverted to provide Henyard with additional protection. It raises serious questions about what exactly she's so afraid of and why she feels the need for so much extra security for her job. If that doesn't raise red flags, I'm not sure what will. So what do you think? Is it time for Tiffany Henyard to step down? Is there more to this story than meets the eye? Is her defense valid? Or does it all seem too shady? Share your thoughts in the comments below. After all, this is not how municipalities typically operate, and it doesn't seem lawful. I'll see you in the next one.